Hello everyone. Yes, I know this is a knitting channel, but I'd also like to think that it is a channel of all things cozy, which to me includes a reading and listening to audiobooks while I knit. Okay, so today I want to go over all of the books I have on my list to read. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Holly. I am with Suave Knits, and today we're reading. We're not knitting, we're reading, or listening to audiobooks while we knit. Either one, fine. For those of you wondering, yes, I knit this sweater. I'm a knitting channel, okay? I gotta wear the things that I made, especially when I'm not talking about knitting. This is the ZGY Sweater from Ash and Her Knits. I actually was one of her test knitters, so huge fan of the pattern. It's gonna be linked below in the description. There are no clouds or stars in the pattern. The clouds and the stars are super easy to add yourself after though. And if you need any help with that, feel free to shoot me a message. I literally just kind of free-handed the clouds, so it's not super intense at all. But anyway, enough about knitting. Today we're talking about books. I've got this lovely stack here, and I turned it around because I don't want you guys jumping ahead. We're gonna go through these books, and I want you to be surprised, okay? So, little mystery here. And speaking of mysteries, let's talk about my first book. We have the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I am about 94 pages in, and this came highly recommended from one of my friends who's a big reader. She wouldn't tell me anything about the book, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go into it blind. I'm gonna just go based off your recommendation alone. And so far I really like it. I'm still not convinced that there's actually a vampire though. So maybe that will be my plot twist. I don't know if it's actually a mystery either. I'm just saying it's a mystery because I don't know if there's a vampire or not. So yeah, it's definitely holding my interest, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. I guess I should probably rank these books kind of like how I did for my whips video. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely am I to finish this book in the next 3 months? This one's definitely a 10 because I've already started it. I'm 25% of the way through. So if I didn't finish it in the next 3 months, that would just be embarrassing for me. So this one is a 10 out of 10. I'm going to finish it. Okay, next on the list, Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I didn't realize that this was a big TikTok book. Call me old, whatever. I cannot figure out TikTok. It just freaks me out, and I'll just repost my Instagram reels to TikTok, and that alone is too much for me. So I'm not really hip on what's big on book talk or whatever, but I watch a lot of book YouTubers, and one of them talked about this book, and she didn't say much about it, but it really caught my interest. So I had been going to used bookstores and looking for it because I thought it was some obscure book, and then I found it at a local bookstore on the bestsellers bookshelf with all of the big books right now. So I was maybe this is kind of mainstream. I don't know. When I saw it, I literally gasped because I had been looking for it, and I didn't want to just buy it from Barnes and Noble, you know? I'm really excited about this one. And this is another one that I really don't know much about what it's about actually. It's one, all I know about it is that it's this cafe where you can travel anywhere back in time or something, but you have to return before your coffee gets cold. And I don't know why, that just feels such a unique concept to me that it's worth the read. But with that, I feel comes some sad stories. How could you not use that prompt to have somebody go back and visit a dead relative or something? So that's why I'm I'm excited about it, but I'm kind of dragging my feet a little because I'm am I gonna be sad? I don't know if I want to be sad, but the odds that I finish this one in the next 3 months, I'm gonna put it pretty high, probably 8 out of 10, because I'm probably gonna read this one next, just because again I've been so excited for it. Also, before the next book, if you want to add me on Goodreads, I will have my account linked below. I also don't know how Goodreads works. Like, I'm such an old person. Like, I can't figure out new social medias. It just, like, literally kills me. But I don't know if you, like, follow or if you, like, friend. I feel like I have a few friends. Like, I'm friends with my dad and, like, another knitter who posted, like, her Goodreads. So, like, I guess add me as a friend if you want. And we'll just figure this whole social media thing out together. So the next book, I have The Song of Achilles. This is another one, I literally don't know anything about this book. Like, I kind of skimmed over the back. Like, I think I do really like going into books, like, not super knowing that much, because then, like, if I know too much about the book going in, like, I feel like I'm just not gonna read it. So I don't know anything about this except that, like, people on TikTok cry about it. I don't know. So that's why, like, I've been wanting to read it because, like, I love mythology stuff. Like, I was one of those, like, Latin nerds in high school. I really want to read some, like, mythology stories, but I also, like, don't want to be sad. So this one's a little bit lower on my, like, 3-month projection if I'll finish it or not, but, like, I've been wanting it. Like, I've been wanting it for months, and I'm just, like, now that I have it, it's like, whew, this is gonna be an emotional commitment. So I'm gonna give this one, like, a 5 out of 10. It just kind of, like, depends on how emotionally stable I'm feeling and if I can handle it. So we'll see. Okay, next up, The Paris Apartment. I had read, like, the back or whatever, the inside of the book, like, a while ago. So I'm not, like, I don't think I can give you, like, an actual description of what this book is about. The things I know right now going into it: mystery in Paris. That's, like, it. I think somebody moves into, like, somebody's apartment and they're missing, or that is the gist that I know about this. But I got it from my local used bookstore, and I love supporting local businesses, always bookstores. So I got it, and, like, the first time I read, like, the description of it, like, months and months ago, I thought it sounded interesting, but I had already read her book, The Guest List. The Guest List, like, really held my interest. I listened to it on audiobook, but the ending I felt like really fell short for me, and I'm not going to tell you literally anything about The Guest List except that. So I was apprehensive of getting another one of this author's books after I felt so let down with the ending of that book. But, like, I've heard good things about The Paris Apartment. It looks interesting, so I feel like I'm gonna start it and see if it holds my interest. Odds that I do that in the next 3 months will probably be, I'm saying, with, like, all the knitting projects I have going on and, like, all of the other books that I want to read, this one's getting, like, a solid 4. But like, I am excited about it, so we'll kind of see. It's just, like, I'm trying to be realistic with, like, all of the other knitting projects I have going on, and, like, you can't read and knit at the same time unless you're doing an audiobook. So that makes reading, like, hard and, like, kind of a lower priority. Okay, so I'm going to try to speed this up a little. I'm going to do 2. Next up, I have The Night Circus and Six of Crows. So I bought these both based off of book YouTuber recommendations. I've already started Six of Crows, and the reason I've kind of lumped these two together is because I feel like they're both kind of like fantasy books. Maybe I'm, like, misreading the vibe, but this one has always come, like, super highly recommended. I'm just, like, I'm not, like, a super big fantasy person. Like, I feel like when you really start reading a fantasy book, like, you have to super commit to it. I was reading this book and I was like, am I reading English right now? Like, there's so many different, like, made up words, and, like, all of the characters' names, like, are very unique, and it's, like, kind of hard for me to keep straight. But that being said, like, I feel like I'm only, like, let me see, this far into the book, and it seems interesting. Like, I do want to finish it. It's just, like, every time I think about it, I'm like, okay, here we go. Like, I gotta really buckle in and, like, fully commit to this. Whereas, like, with the, like, Southern Guide to Killing Vampires or whatever, it just, like, you can just, like, dive into the story and, like, everything kind of, like, makes sense, you know? Like, you don't have to, like, learn different city names because it's, like, more realistic. I don't know. So that's been the struggle with this book. With this book, like, I bought it because, again, it was like a local bookstore, and I was like, it's on my list anyway. It sounded interesting. It's like, basically, from my understanding, like, these magical circuses and the two like rival circus people like are kind of like star-crossed lovers, but also like have to fight for survival or something. I knew the premise of the book when I bought it and it sounded interesting, but now it's been like a few months and I'm like, I don't really remember, but it does sound interesting. And it does say on the back here, a love story for adults that feels luxuriously romantic. Ooh, that kind of sells me. But I don't know if I'm going to get around to it in the next 3 months. And that's just me being honest with myself. So this one I'm going to rank like a 4, and this one I'm going to rank like a 1. But like they're both books that I want to read, and I'm going to try to like stop buying books until I actually like start actually chipping away at this list. Okay, so this next book is called In 5 Years. This one I actually bought for my friend for Christmas. So like we have a group of girls that we're all still friends from high school, and every year we like give each other like little Christmas presents, and this year I did books for everyone. And I tried to pick books based on like what I thought they might like. And for this friend in particular, I thought this book would be like perfect for her. It was like the book is about a woman who like has her life perfectly right, like everything's going according to plan. She just gets engaged, and then she wakes up and she's 5 years in the future. She's like in a different apartment. She has a different man sleeping next to her, a different engagement ring on, and it's like everything's different. And I thought this was like a nice book if you're like still like finding your place in life, you know, like not everything goes according to plan. So I bought this book for my friend, and it wasn't going to come in until after we met up. So I went to like Barnes and Noble and I bought a second copy, and I was like, oh, whatever, I'll just like return the one from Amazon when it comes in. But then I was like, actually, I want it. I want to read it too. So I haven't read it yet. She finished it like really quickly and she liked it. So I think like, and it's such a like short little book that I feel like it would be like cute, fun, quick read. And like, I know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but like this cover is incredible. It just is. So, and I'm a huge like sucker for big cities, and I think this takes place like in a big city. So that's another thing I'm really excited to read about. So odds I finish it, I'll give it a 4. Okay, next two books by Murakami. I know more about After Dark. Both of these I got from my husband, and I thought that he would like kind of vibe with it, especially the book called After Dark. Again, I don't really know anything about this one. Like, I just know it came highly recommended from some book YouTubers, but I will say like Murakami seems to be like recommended by like the book YouTubers who are more like academic, you know what I mean? Like the vibe of like English major, like full-time job is reading, like very introspective, which I think is like really cool. But because like my job and my schooling is like so mentally taxing, like I don't like to come home and read like a mentally taxing book on top of that. But I still think like the premise of this book at least was really cool. Basically, it takes place in Tokyo, and from my understanding, like at least from this book's point of view, Tokyo has like a really unique like after hours scene, because it's like the metro or whatever, the train that like takes people who work in Tokyo out to like their rural homes only runs like to a certain hour, and then like all night after the train stops, like if you don't catch the train, like you're kind of stuck there overnight. And like, again, from my understanding, is like the cost that it would take to like take a taxi out to like the rural area is like not worth the cost. So a lot of people will just like stay in Tokyo after dark. So it has like this unique like diner scene, like hotel, like vibe to the city. Again, just from my understanding of this book, and this book kind of focuses on like an adventure of somebody who's in Tokyo after dark. I've heard there's like a playlist on Spotify that has like all the songs referenced in this book, and my husband's like really into music, so I got him this book to like so he could listen to the playlist like while he's reading, like maybe after dark. But he's like a doctor, so and he's in his intern year, like, which is the hardest year that you have in your training. So it's been really hard for him to like come home and read what could potentially be a mentally taxing book. So we'll see like if it gets read, but I'm not planning on really reading either of these. Like maybe this one, like I've heard it's really good, but I don't have any intention of like starting it myself. Again, I just thought my husband would like these based on what I had heard about them. Anyway, next book, 2 books actually, the Bridgerton books, the first 2. My best friend is like obsessed with the Bridgerton books and I've heard that they're really good. I want to read them. I got these because the Barnes & Noble near my place it like closed and had a ton of books on clearance, and like these 2 were on clearance, so I was like, well, this is a good time to get them. I don't super have like a drive to start reading them right now. I'm also like not really in the mood for like anything steamy right now. I feel like when the next season of Bridgerton comes out, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm ready to read the books. So that's when I'm planning on doing that. If it doesn't come out in the next 3 months, then I'm probably not gonna start these, so I'll give these a 1. Before I get into my last 3 here, I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about the audiobook I'm currently listening to. I'm listening to Book Lovers by Emily Henry, I think is her name, and I really like it, but I think I'm like halfway through it right now, and I had to take a little break because first of all, like I'm not like a super huge fan of like super steamy books. I feel like I already know like the character and like the main love interests are gonna get together, but like since I'm halfway through the book, there's definitely going to be like big conflicts that come up, and I just feel like emotionally I'm not ready for that. I just like want them to get married already. I think that's why I'm kind of like but it's an audiobook, so I can listen to it while I knit. So odds that I finish it is probably going to be pretty high. I'll give it like a 10 out of 10 because like I want to finish it. Like I paid for the audiobook. I want them to get together, so like I just need to suck it up and finish. The last 3 books on my list are all nonfictions. The first is The Gift of Fear. This one I got because I heard it was like really good for like safety. Like it kind of teaches you that like feeling uneasy is like your body's way of like telling you something. So I really like want to read it just because like I'm an anxious girly, so like I feel like this book would be really good for me to just kind of like harness that anxious energy that I get when I'm out in public. Odds I finish it in the next 3 months. Like I really do, I want to start it, so I'm gonna give it like a 6 out of 10. I don't know, like again, a lot of these rankings are like weird just based off of like how many knitting projects I've queued up, and like deadlines on those doesn't leave a lot of time for reading in addition to school. But like this is like a priority for me. Like I want to read it. And that brings me to my next book, The Good Life. This is like a new book, and I actually bought it like the day that it came out because I had heard about it and it felt like revolutionary. Basically like these scientists, they studied like across like all groups of people like what makes you happy, and it's like the world's longest study on happiness, and they found that it's like interpersonal relationships, which for me I totally believe it. And I believe it because during my 3rd year of medical school, that's when you're like off doing like clerkships, they're called. So it's like different rotations and different specialties. You're like seeing patients and all of that stuff. I did a lot of my rotations like at military hospitals because I'm on a military scholarship. So I didn't get to see a lot of my classmates. And like this was also coming off the heels of COVID. So we were already like not really seeing each other that often. And I just felt like it was just a very isolating year for me. And it just like really took a toll on my mental health, which I didn't think would ever happen because I think I lean like a little bit more introverted as a person, but I still like need to see people that like I have deep relationships with. Like I don't really like the superficial stuff. So like, yeah, I would be interacting with people on my rotations, but like it wasn't the people that like build me up. You know what I mean? So like it wasn't really until like this school year, like my 4th year of medical school, where I started to like see my friends more, and like that has like changed my mental health. Like I just feel like I'm myself again, and I'm just really interested to see like what this book has to say about that, because I feel like I've experienced it personally, that like interpersonal relationships are just so important, and prioritizing them is so important. It's like hard when you're like an adult and like you have a busy schedule, but like it's just so interesting to me that it was like studied and proven. So this book I really want to read, but I would rather hang out with my friends. So that's why it's like a lower priority with all of the other stuff I have going on. So I'm just gonna put this one, I'll put it the same score as Gift of Fear, like a 6. Okay, last one, Atomic Habits. I know this one's a bestseller. I started reading it, I am about that far in, so not very far at all. I like the idea of this book where like it is very inspiring, just like the first chapter, but like I haven't picked it up since. I think you have to like really want to make it change. But I really like the philosophy that like you only have to get like 1% better every day. And I feel like I've just from that one chapter have been like trying to do that a little bit, like cleaning up and like trying to like move more and like be more active. So like I really want to finish this book. I think out of the 3 nonfictions, like this one's my biggest priority, so I'm giving it a 7. So yeah, I do feel that this one could be like very life-changing if I can just like get myself to read it. So I might like leave it out on like my counter or like on my coffee table, so that I am motivated to pick it up and just like read a chapter before bed or something. Yes, so I'm all done. I of course have 2 bookshelves full of books also, although a lot of those I have read and I've just kept them because I like them. I recently went through my bookshelves and like got rid of a bunch and like brought them to the used bookstore. But there's still like a few on the bookshelf that I haven't read that like aren't super high on my list because I like started them and like wasn't feeling it, but I feel like it's still a good story. I think the moral of the story here is that I love shopping. I love buying things, and I love buying books, and I love justifying my purchases as supporting small businesses. C'est la vie. It doesn't matter. I am supporting the local businesses. Good for me. But I do really want to read these books as long as I can prioritize some reading over my knitting, cut down on the scrolling on Instagram, and instead pick up a book. I feel like that would be so much better for me. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed watching. Thank you for watching if you made it this far in the video. And let me know if you want me to do more like, I'm going to say knitting adjacent videos, because even though this wasn't about knitting, I still feel like it was cozy vibes all the way. So if you like videos like that, please let me know. I would love to talk more about everything and anything. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next one. Bye.